Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vijana Vallabha Girivardhari Oh, Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacha Jashodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Savai Jalana Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacha Jashodhara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samveda Bhakti Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, C.C. Guru and Sri Gauranga. Should we chant both verses or just the first verse?
I'll just do one.
Yeah. Okay. So this morning, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, chapter 10, the battle between the demigods and Vritrasura. This is a text, we'll begin with text 13 and read a few verses till we come to a purport. And then tomorrow's class will finish the chapter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Atindro Vajram Udyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha Tendra Vajramudhyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha Atendra Vajram Udyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha Atendra Vajram Udyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha. Can I like to chant? Atindra Vajramudhyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha. Tendra Vajram Udyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha. Tendra Vajram Udyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha. Atendra Vajramudhyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha. Atendra Vajramudhyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha. Tendra Vajramudhyamya Nirmitam Vishwakarmana Mune Shaktibir Utsikto Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha. Online audience?
Atendra Vajramudhyamya
Atendra Vajramudhyamya
Nirmitam Vishwakarmana
Nirmitam Vishwakarmana
Mune Shaktibir Utsikto
Mune Shaktibir Utsikto
Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha.
Bhagavat Tejasanvitaha.
Krishna, thank you.
Okay. Let's just do the word for word for this verse, right? Okay. Ata, thereafter, Indra, king of heaven, Vajram, the thunderbolt, Udyamya, firmly taking up, Nirmitam, manufactured, Vishwakarmana, by Vishwakarma, Mune, of the great sage Dadichi, Shaktibihi, by the power. Utsiktaha, saturated. Bhagavat, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tejasa, with spiritual power. Anvita, endowed. Okay, translation for both verses. Thereafter, King Indra firmly took up the thunderbolt manufactured by Vishwakarma from the bones of the Dichi. Charged with the exalted power of the Dichi Muni and enlightened by the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Indra rode on the back of his carrier Aravata, surrounded by all the demigods, while all of the great sages offered him praise. Thus he shone very beautifully, pleasing the three worlds as he rode off to kill Vritrasura. Text 15, translation. My dear King Parikshit, as Rudra, being very angry at Antaka, Yamaraj, had formerly run toward Antaka to kill him, Indra angrily and with great force attacked Vritrasura, who was surrounded by the leaders of the demonic armies. Text 16. Thereafter, at the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, a fierce battle took place between the demigods and the demons on the bank of the Narmada. Purport. Herein, the Narmada does not mean the Narmada River in India. The 5 sacred rivers in India, Ganga, Jamuna, Narmada, Kaveri, and Krishna, are all celestial. Like the river Ganges River, the Narmada River also flows in the higher planetary systems. The battle between the demigods and the demons took place in the higher planets. The words Pratame Yuge mean in the beginning of the first millennium. That is to say, in the beginning of the Vaivasvata Manvantara. In one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, who each live for 71 millenniums. The 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwarpa, and Kali, constitute 1 millennium. We are presently in the Manvantara of Vaivasvata Manu, who is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavanaham avayam vivaswan manave praha. We are now in the 28th millennium of Vaivasvata Manu. But this fight took place in the beginning of Vaivasvata Manu's first millennium. One can historically calculate how long ago the battle took place, since each millennium consists of 4,300,000 years, and we are now in the 28th millennium. Some 120,400,000 years have passed since the battle took place on the bank of the river Narmada. So, here's a quiz for you. In the middle planetary systems where we are, the Ganga is called the Ganga. What is she called in the heavenly planets? What is she called in the hellish planets? No. Mandakini, or Mandaki, that's heavenly, and Bhogavati, or Bhogavati, is the hell. That goes by different names, depending on which, like that's the problem. Saying all these rivers, they flow all the way through, and they may have different names. So this battle took place a long time ago, and we're still talking about it. Like that. Is this ancient history or recent history? It's ancient. Depends on who you're talking to, right? Okay, text 17 and 18. Translation. O king, when all the Asuras came onto the battlefield headed by Vritrasura, they saw King Indra carrying the thunderbolt and surrounded by the Rudras, Vasus, Adityas, Ashwini Kumaras, Pitas, Vanis, Maruts, Ribus, Sadhjas, and Vishvadevas. Surrounded by his company, Indra shone so brilliantly that his effulgence was intolerable to the demons. I remember hearing one class that was explaining that the Bhagavatam, the sages, and many of the Vedic literatures, they talk about the lineage of kings. You know, what happened, pastimes of the Lord and those lineages, because it's much more exciting. If they were just talking about Brahmins, not much would happen. Oh, Dravida Prabhu went and offered Artik. Oh, wow. He quoted a verse. He chanted his Gayatri. Not much happening. But the kings, there's always wars and this, that, and the other thing. So it keeps everyone's attention. talking about kings and politics and so on. Everyone's attention as the Mahabharata is there. So, many hundreds and thousands of demons, demi-demons. You don't even make it to be a demon, you're a demi-demon. Like that. So, that's interesting. How do you qualify to be a demi-demon? Like that. A little bit like that. Okay, but he pulled out all stops. He called everyone to help him fight this battle. So he even asked for the demi-demons to help out. So yakshas, rakshasas, man-eaters, and others headed by Sumali and Mali resisted the armies of King Indra, which even death personified cannot easily overcome. Among the demons were Namuchi, Shambhara, Anavra, Dvimudra, Rishabha, Asura, Hayagriva, Sankushira, Vipachiti, Ayomukha, Puloma, Brishaparva, Praheti, Heti, and Utkala. Rogues Gallery. Roaring tumultuously and fearless like lions, these invincible demons, all dressed in golden ornaments, gave pain to the demigods with weapons like clubs, bludgeons, arrows, barbed darts, mallets, and lances. Next verse, 23. Armed with lances, tridents, axes, swords, and other weapons like shatagnis, and bushandis, the demons attacked from different directions and scattered all the chiefs of the demigod armies. So it's not looking good. Not looking good for the Devatas. Text 24. As the stars in the sky cannot be seen when covered by dense clouds, the demigods being completely covered by networks of arrows falling upon them one after another could not be seen. That's a lot of arrows. Text 25. The showers of various weapons and arrows released to kill the soldiers of the demigods did not reach them, because the demigods, acting quickly, cut the weapons into thousands of pieces in the sky. Text 26. As their weapons and mantras decreased, the demons began showering mountain peaks, trees, and stones upon the demigods' soldiers. But the demigods were so powerful and expert that they nullified all these weapons by breaking them into pieces in the sky as before. Text 27. When the soldiers of the demons, commanded by Vritrasura, saw that the soldiers of King Indra were quite well, having not been injured at all by their volleys of weapons, not even by the trees, stones, and mountain peaks, the demons were very much afraid. You know, you'll see those, whether it's a cartoon or this or that, a little skin, a person's boxing and he punches the other person and nothing happens. He goes, oh no, right? Nothing. It's like, didn't even feel it. It's like, uh-oh, we're in trouble now. When insignificant persons use rough words to cast false, angry accusations against saintly persons, their fruitless words do not disturb the great personalities. Similarly, all the efforts of the demons against the demigods, who were favorably situated under the protection of Krishna, were futile. Purport. There is a Bengali saying, I'm going to ask Ramapi to tell us what it is in Bengali. There is a Bengali saying that if a vulture curses a cow to die, the curse will not be effective. Similarly, accusations made by demoniac persons against devotees of Krishna cannot have any effect. The demigods are devotees of Lord Krishna, and therefore the curses of the demons were futile. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unminitam Nina Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Nina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Yam Dadati Swapadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Banchikapatrupascha, Kripa Sindhu Mevacha, Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So by your good wishes, I'll try to say a few words. So, do you know the Bengali for that?
Sopon is the vulture. Soponero Visabel Goru Morena means they stay high up, they're always looking for cows, but by their curse, the vultures, cows
Right. So, okay, it's a common saying. So even if a vulture curses a cow to die, the curse will not be effective. So that hungry vulture is just hoping, you die? No. Like that. So it's not going to work. In other words, it's not going to work. It's not effective. So there's a few things here. Now, one thing it says here, what's the Sanskrit for do not disturb? Well, Prabhupada says in the purport here about do not disturb great personalities. So that's a symptom of a great personality, a devotee that Prabhupada always asks us to follow that verse, Trinadapi sunichena tororiva suhishnana manidhamanadena kirtaniya sadahari. That if one is always very humble, just like lower than a blade of grass, and more tolerant than a tree, toror means tree, has to be tolerant, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respects to others. Now that's how we define a great personality. Like that. Just like they have Forbes, top 500, different magazines, most popular people, the wealthiest people. And these are, I guess those are, I don't know what other maybe most learned, but they don't even do that anymore, so that's not very popular. Maybe in academic circles they'll have, who's very, professors and this and that, but that general mass of people, it's, the famous people and the rich people. The famous and the rich. There's probably is there a magazine, The Famous and the Rich? Probably Famous and the Rich, like that. So, and they list them. They list that at least every year. Who are the most famous people? I heard this years ago. The most famous person in the world is? Mickey Mouse. Exactly. Who said that? Yeah, Mickey Mouse. He's more well known than more than anyone else. Mickey Mouse. And he's not even real. Just in case you didn't know, he's not even real, like that. So that's pretty far out. He's most famous, But movie stars, athletes and so on, fame, like that. Oh, very, very famous. Or wealthy, because wealth is, in a society of Vaishyas and Sudras, money is the honey it talks. So, and it always changes. That's why they have to update it every year. People are very, very famous for some time, and they just disappear. They disappear. They fall from grace. They do something they shouldn't do and get caught. They're always doing something they shouldn't do, but they get caught, and money comes and goes, right? In the material world, Lakshmi is known as Chanchala. She's always moving, so you can't hold on to it forever. And very, very big business enterprises or families with a lot of money, they just they fall to the wayside. The money is gone. It doesn't stay forever. So, in the materialist point of view, those are great personalities, very, very great personalities. And also you may have bodily strength, athletes, fighters, right? What is that? There's initials for it, like the wrestling. Well, the big wrestling organization. World. WW, is that what it is? WW, what does it stand for? World Wrestling? Federation, or W, okay. So they got those big people, men and women. Isn't that pretty amazing? They got women out there. What do you think of those? Those women out there beating each other up. Is it attractive? Like that. I think maybe it's just attractive to men or something. I don't know. Women get into that? Like that.
World Wrestling Entertainment.
Oh, okay. Because it is entertainment, right? Because they say it's not real out of it. It's all fake. So that's also... Oh, great personality. So-and-so punched so-and-so out, this year and won exorbitant amount of money for doing that. Kind of reminds you, there was an article recently in ISKCON, ISKCON News, comes out online, different articles. There's an article there by Stephen Knapp, who is Nandanandana Prabhu. He's written so many wonderful books and so on, but he described the fall of the Roman Empire, and there are 5 things which foreshadowed the fall of the Roman Empire, and we're following in suit perfectly. you know. And one of them was this violence stuff. People just love the violence, sex and violence, and the disappearance of the middle class. Rich got richer, the poor got poorer, and they didn't like the Christians because their idea of religion, where the gods were also doing all these debased activities, drinking and this and that, and then you got the Lord, pure, and Jesus Christ. That didn't go over well. So what do you do with people like that? Feed them to the lions, and it becomes entertainment, like that. Worldwide Christian entertainment. Just feed them to the lions for fun. So, but it was interesting. This thing about gladiators and violence became very, very and became the what do you call it? The people, organizers of the arena and so on, they had to come up with more and more grotesque and horrible entertainment because the people needed to be jolted more and more and more. So the worst ways they could torture people and have fight, like a drug. So they wanted, and they release lions on people and this and that. Can you imagine that? Just watching a bunch of live people get chased down by lions and torn apart, and everyone's cheering. They're having a good time. Family entertainment. I wonder if they actually had, you had to be a certain age to go in there. Probably not. Probably not. It's a family entertainment. So these are all signs of the end. Like that, when humanity becomes like that, it's falling apart very quickly. So we're dutifully following in the same. History repeats itself. When there's opulence and power and so on, people become more and more and more degraded. So the point being is those kinds of people became very, very, very famous, like that. But we don't accept that type of fame. It's not real fame. In fact, when Ramananda Roy, in his conversation with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that was one of the questions: is who's really famous? And Ramananda Roy said, a devotee. Devotee's actually famous. The real fame is that one is a pure devotee of Krishna.
Otherwise it's
infamy, not fame, it's infamy. So such great personalities, they're not disturbed when materialistic people attack them with false, angry accusations, like that. So that's a symptom of devotee. Trinadapi sunichena tadoriva suhishnana. Of course, when another devotee is blasphemed, the devotee is not tolerant. I'm just reading and just finished that little book Maharaj gave me, Trivikram Maharaj, talking about his memoirs with Prabhupada and so on. And he was in London, and he came up out of the subway with some devotees, and there's a man standing there, and he started yelling about the devotees or something. He went right up to him and he said, "If you don't shut up, I'm going to punch your lights out." More or less, that's what he said in his New York accent. And he said, "I thought you guys were nonviolent." He said, "You're wrong." So the guy shut up. But he made the point. If he had yelled at him, he wouldn't have said anything. But he was, yelling at some other devotees. So he said, "You're wrong. We're not nonviolent." In his very gruff kind of New York accent, Maharaj, like that. So that's the point. If the devotees are offended, the Lord's offended, the devotee becomes just like fire, just like an angry New Yorker, okay? But for oneself, one's not disturbed. Now, one way to look at this, and I brought this up before, and it's an appropriate way to look at it, Burijan brings this up in his book on japa, is when someone criticizes you. Ever been criticized? Do you like it? No one likes to be criticized, but it may be good. Right? So the point is we have things in us that are worthy of criticism. Can anyone say, there's nothing in my life where you could criticize? Raise your hand.
I can say the other side. There's nothing in my life worth praise.
Okay. So the point is, he says, Burijan Prabhu, he makes his point, that the heart is like all the dust in the heart. So he says it's kind of like a room. And does anyone here have the kind of person they don't keep their room very clean? Don't raise your hand. Okay, so you have two daughters. You know, some of you know them, Chintamani and Tulsi. Tulsi the younger, Chintamani the older. They used to share a room, and there'd be an imaginary line down the room, and Tulsi, it was like a bomb hit. And Chintamani is everything. She was a professional organizer for years. Just everything is in the perfect place. And there was a line down the middle. It's just like someone threw a bomb over there, but she would always say, "I know exactly where everything is." Okay, so the point is, our heart is such a mess, you know. And you know, if you open a door just a little bit into a like that up front there, right, on the right hand side. Okay, you open it up, you see, oh my goodness. But if you open it just a little bit, you go, oh my goodness. Well, wait till if you open the whole door, you'd pass out. It's like, my goodness. So when someone sees one or two qualities in us that are unacceptable and points it out, you say to ourselves, good thing you didn't open the whole door. Because if you open the whole door, we'd be here all day long. You know, so the point being a devotee is very conscientious of all of their own shortcomings, and someone points out one or two, it's like, so what? Not so what, but I mean, it's like, you have no idea. So they're not disturbed. Charupa, in one class, he said when he was living in Los Angeles, he got a ticket for speeding. So he had to go to, what do they call it? Traffic school. Okay. You ever been to traffic school? You're not an American if you haven't been to traffic school, or Californian. You got to go to traffic school. I've been to traffic school once or twice. Avoid that fine, you know, get it off your. And usually they're taught by retired CHP officers a lot of times, unless you get the joke ones or something like that. But even those. But anyway, he said he went to the class, and the very first thing the instructor said was, "You're all here, and many of you probably think you don't belong here, like you really shouldn't have been ticketed or whatever." He said, but statistically, something like this, that you know, every like half hour or something on the road, you break the law about 7 times. So you got caught once. But most people are breaking the law just all the time, little infractions, whether you didn't use your blinker, this or that, took the wrong turn, or most people, it's like unbelievable the amount of, if you wanted to get pulled in for every single thing you did against the book, you'd be pulled in quite a lot. So there's a lot of that's the point. That's one reason the devotee is not disturbed. It's not the thing where, who are you to tell me what to do? Who are you to tell me what to do? It's not like that. It's more like, yes, you can say whatever you like, but devotee is very, very humble. And I appreciate whatever, good instruction you're giving me. And I deserve much worse. And there's a lot more things behind that door. And I'm working on it. And thank you very much. And that's the reality of the situation. So that's one reason a great personality. Now, the really great personalities, their room's completely clean. So how about them? How about them? It's because their consciousness is completely elsewhere. They're completely elsewhere. They're with Krishna. They're on the transcendental platform. So what is it? Is it in here recently? We're reading about I've been listening to your narrating the Bhagavatam, for all the way up to Santa Barbara and all the way back. And that was a total of 9 hours in driving. All the way beginning the 10th canto. Okay. So maybe in there, but we've heard the example many times that someone felt the effect of something just like someone throwing a garland at an elephant. It's like, what's that? What's that? Doesn't even feel it. Doesn't even feel it. So in the exact same way, great personalities, the movement of the modes of material nature don't disturb them. That's what's happening here, because everything, and these are the lower modes. Someone who's using rough and false, angry words, that's ignorance and passion, and they're not affected by it. There's a story, I think it was in Canada, and Prabhupada was there in the early days speaking, and some Indian man was like challenging him like anything, and he was coming for a while and challenging, and then later on devotees asked, and Prabhupada didn't get upset at this particular time, and devotees asked him, and Prabhupada said, I must have offended him in a previous life. I I must have offended him in a previous life. It's come back to me. So this is how great personalities think and feel. That's their realization. They're not disturbed at all. And there's so many different pastimes, and this is one of them. Vitrasura will show us. And then it says here that the efforts of the demons against the demigods, because they're favorably situated under the protection of Krishna, nothing could hurt them. So, that's another point, is Krishna's protection. Isn't one of the cantos of the Bhagavatam, is that the 7th canto? The protection of the Lord? Because there's 10 different subjects that are there in each Purana. In a Purana, like creation, sub-creation. There's a list there, what makes a Purana. And I think one of them is actually the protection of the Lord. I don't know, that may be the 7th canto with Prahlad Maharaj. In other words, assuring everyone that Krishna is there and he'll protect you. And Krishna tells, and if you don't believe Krishna, even Krishna knows you may not believe him, so he tells his devotee, Arjun, can you tell everyone, Konteya pratijani name bhakti panashyati? They believe the devotees. They don't believe me sometimes. So my devotee never perishes. And Prabhupada would quote this many, 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 many times to assure us that Krishna's protection is always there. Now, one thing to remember, though, is the devotee is not the body. Devotee is the soul. That's confirmed right there. Okay? So, things may happen to our body because people sometimes define, or it's majority of people define God's grace as everything's going very well in this material world. Right? That's how they define it. Why is that? Because of the bodily concept of life. I am this body, and God is good to me. That means he's good to my body. Like that. So it's a rare person who sees beyond that and feels the grace of God is something beyond just our bodily happiness. Sometimes you hear of people who maybe they're terminally ill or all kinds of things happen, and their faith is not at all disturbed. And they actually see it eventually as the mercy of God to teach them a lesson. Everything is taken away. Right? That kincha gochara. Everything gets taken away, and they pass the test because it's going to happen to every single one of us. Every single one of us. It's all going to be taken away. It's a matter of when and how, but not yes or no. Not if. There's no iffies there. It's going to happen. It's just a question of when and how. Prabhupada would stress so many times. Therefore, and Maharaj's class the other day, he was making that point. Therefore, why don't you give your life to Krishna? Because it's all going to be taken away anyways. And that way, Vitrasura is saying that right here. Vitrasura is preaching. I read ahead. He's telling all the demons, hey, come back, come back. He says life is temporary. And if you die on the battlefield fighting, you can go to heaven. Do something with this useless body. It's going to, you're going to die anyway, so why not die a glorious death and go to heaven? So it's going to happen. It's a question of, when and how, and then it just happens. Just at the funeral yesterday, it seems like every Tuesday I talk about after I've been to a funeral the day before, three Mondays in a row. Hare Krishna. And there were a few people who got up and spoke. It was quite an interesting group of people. And pious, but interesting. But the few people were saying, when she got it was an elderly woman, Indian woman, Shuddha was her name, and they're saying, when she got the diagnosis, and an older American gentleman, not Indian. It's funny, I walked in the door, her daughter, Indian woman, saw me, looks at me like, she goes, are you the priest? And I said, yeah. She said, I was expecting a brown person. I said, I'll step outside and try to get a tan if you want, but we've got to move ahead here. But they were saying that when she got the diagnosis, and this one gentleman was telling the story that he visited her quite soon after the diagnosis was given, and the woman looked up at him like here it is. I got it. I got the notice in the mail. Right? You get notices in the mail like, uh-oh. You get these notices, sometimes. Eviction. It's your eviction notice. Sorry, you got to go. And you've got 2 weeks or 1 week or a year or, some people, the previous Monday, she got a notice and she was told that, could be a few years, a few months or a few years. And she lived actually maybe another 10, 12 years. She kept fighting it and fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. So, but the notice comes. Everything changes, whether it's peaceful or not peaceful. Just like I've lived different places, and the house is renting a house, and it gets sold out from under you. The owner comes and says, "We've decided to sell." It's like, wow. And you got to the end of the month, or you got, it's like everything changes. You move into a whole different mood. It's like, now you got to move. So that eviction notice is coming for everyone. But so what does it mean, the protection of Krishna? Oh my goodness. I'm going way over time. Sorry. Maybe be protected to look at the clock more often or something like that. Hare Krishna. Yeah, probably for me. Hare Krishna. Maybe someone online should just go, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. It's time. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up because there may be some questions or comments. So the point is we should have that faith, and Prabhupada kept pushing and pushing and pushing as someone who was completely surrendered to Krishna, had Krishna's full protection. Don't worry. That doesn't mean there's not going to be struggles. We brought that verse up a few classes ago, that in the 18th chapter about, what is that? Mat prasada tarishyasi. Sarva durgani, all the distress of the material world is there, but we take shelter of Krishna, mat prasada, by my mercy you cross over the whole thing. Doesn't mean it goes away. It just means throughout the whole sojourn of happiness and distress in the material world, the devotee always feels Krishna's protection and feels Krishna's guidance, and Krishna is there. Krishna is there. So a lot more could be said. It's confirmed, I guess, right? So we can end here. Any questions or comments with a microphone?
Yeah, I guess it's on. I don't think very highly of Roman culture either. I mean, they're absolute demonic. Some of the Caesars were beyond demonic. But to their credit, Constantine did allow the Christians to practice. He did accept the Christianity as the state religion, and he actually converted. He actually was baptized shrewdly near the end of his life, because once you're baptized, all your sins are forgiven. He says, well, let's wait till the very end. So, no, he was a shrewd man. But yeah, you can see... Yeah. I mean, all throughout, from about the 3rd century, the 4th century, and then by the 5th century, the 400s. I mean, it was, when it finally collapsed in 476 AD, it was a done deal, at least a century before that. Yeah, they're a piece of work, yeah. Anybody? Okay, I'm sorry.
Confirmed.
Just about this demi-demon thing, Prabhupada, it's not actually in the Sanskrit of the verse, but it seems like, let me find it. It seems like Prabhupada is translating, anyways, that's super important, but it seems like Prabhupada is translating, so he says the demons, the demi-demons, where is it? Yeah. The demons, demi-demons, and then he says yakshas and rakshasas, but in the word for word it's daityas, which he translates as the demons, and then it says the danavas, which he translates as the danavas. So I think he's calling the danavas demi-demons. So
okay.
I think the difference between the daityas and the danavas is that they're demi-demons, I guess.
So if you run into a daitya, watch out. Danavas, right. They're demons. Yeah, those all these personalities exist in different places in the universe. Just like it was just saying this battle took place in a different place in the universe, not on this planet. You know, even demons don't like this planet. There's not much going on here. It's no fun. It's just a tiny little screwed up little Earth planet with human beings messing everything up. You can't drink the water. You can't breathe the air. I mean, everything's plastic. It's like a, you know, these are high class demons. They're used to heavenly, you know, they're attacking heaven. That's their level, you know. So they're not used to it. They don't like this kind of stuff. Sorry, we don't qualify. We don't. Well, we got our own problems, so. We have our minds to deal with. That's even worse. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we'll end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.